We have another Sean Strickland video. He is going in hard after Dana White, looking for the rematch that probably won't come, and I will explain to you exactly why it isn't going to come. He's made a number of mistakes just this week, 100% cemented the fact that he's not getting this rematch. We're going to look at Dricus du Plessis replying to Sean Strickland and actually being pretty open about what he wants and what could possibly happen. And we're also going to have a look towards the end of this video at, and I don't want to be too harsh, but an insane crazy statement from Jake Paul. He's talking about Sean Strickland. He's talking about sparring with Sneeko. He's talking about his own skill set, and she's a bit ridiculous. She's a bit ridiculous, let me tell you. Before we get to that, we'll look at this one. Morning report. Sean Strickland calls for Dricus du Plessis rematch. Asks, when does a champ ever lose a close fight? It's an interesting question. It's something that I posed real early on. I got real conspiratorial, but not really, because it's the actual truth. And most people either know it and don't want to talk about it, or just kind of breeze over it. I see Michael Bisping coming out, doing the thing that he does. It infuriates me. 1 minute he comes out and he's completely cool and based. Then realizing that he might have a little bit of heat coming at him from the media or the company that he works for, he tucks tail and bounces out of there and goes back to the usual shillery, talking about Sean Strickland doesn't deserve the rematch because he wasn't the dominant champion, but Israel Adesanya does. Is there anyone ever going to say a bad word about Israel Adesanya? Like, ever? That's all I want to know. It's definitely not going to be Michael Bisping. But I think what's more interesting about this is this interaction here yesterday. Dricus du Plessis went up on Twitter, X as we call it now if you're cool. Since this is a spectator sport, what do you guys think? Sean Strickland or Stylebender? Arsebender? Just for the record, it makes absolutely no difference to me. The result will be the same. I think it's kind of interesting that he's putting the question out there, and he needs to be kind of commended for that much at least, and not just being like, okay, Israel Adesanya is getting the match. That shit. Sean Strickland replies and he says, here's the thing. Dana himself said I won. The numbers said I won. Let's settle this. I respected you before, I've respected you after, but this needs to be settled once and for all. So I'm going to pose that question right now. Let me know in the comments down below. Sean Strickland, does he deserve a rematch with Dricus du Plessis? Who won that last fight? It was extremely tight. It was contentious. It went the way of Dricus du Plessis, which I didn't have a problem with because I actually do like him. But I do have a problem with the clandestine way in which it actually came to fruition, because it was the week of this outburst from Sean Strickland where he absolutely destroyed some woke nut job. Then we had the usual suspects running cover for this reporter, and Sean Strickland must be shut down and all that sort of narrative. Then a few days later he suspiciously loses the title and doesn't get offered a rematch. Actually, there's no even talk of a rematch. The word on everybody's lips as soon as that decision came in was Israel Adesanya, a guy who was taking a couple of years off to get himself straight. Yeah.
That's gross.
Dana White was calling for it in the press conference. He was talking about Israel Adesanya. Now all of a sudden that rat has come out of the woodwork and he wants this fight, and it's going to be the biggest fight ever. There's something seriously wrong with this whole picture. And as I said, I don't think Sean Strickland is doing himself any favors if he's actually looking for the rematch. If he wants the rematch and that's his aim to get it, I think he deserves it. I think he should 100% get this rematch. It's not going to happen, bro, if you're going after LGBTQ mentally ill people. It's just not going to happen. In the last week, we have guys like this. Carl Nassib, I believe is the way his name is pronounced, calls Sean Strickland scum of humanity and slams the UFC for staying silent on this phobic behavior from Sean Strickland. And we also have articles coming out of USA Today Sports, right? Sean Strickland is a mental giant, but he's also a phobe. The UFC need to act. Let's look at the wording here. The UFC need to act. That's what this article is saying. And some gay NFL guy is talking about, you know, the UFC can't stay silent on this sort of behavior. Now, this all plays into the story that we talked about when he lost the title originally. These lunatics were out for his blood. The UFC, according to Ariel Helwani, had representatives go and reprimand him. And it wasn't a mistake that he stopped talking about the LGBTQ community being, you know yourself, mental. So if we're believing Ariel, the rat, and we're looking at all these articles coming out this week, and the fans are calling for Sean Strickland not to get banned, bro. All this heat coming in on you this week, and you're looking for a rematch? It ain't gonna happen, man. It ain't gonna happen. It doesn't matter how much he deserves this rematch. It doesn't matter how much he thinks that he should get the rematch, or even if the wide majority of the fan base believe that he should get it. It's not going to happen. Too much heat. This LGBTQ mafia, with the aid of the legacy media, are out for your blood. And there is no escaping them. He's literally borderline right now on being cancelled. He's so close. He's one step away. All he's got to do is pick the wrong side in the Middle Eastern conflict that's happening at the moment, and you will see the long arm of censorship shutting him down. I think there's no rematch happening, bro. We're going to have to deal with Israel Adesanya and all the racist rants from him, because that sort of rhetoric is not only allowed, it's promoted, because it's against a certain skin color. Whatever. And as fair as Drickus is being, and somebody slapped a poll in underneath the question, and it was, I believe, 60% of the people wanted to see a rematch with Sean Strickland. It's not going to happen. Sean Strickland is destined to be cancelled. I want to jump over here real quick and have a look at my old buddy Jake Paul. He went off on a little bit of a tangent with this other little scobe, Aiden Ross. This guy is vermin. Absolute vermin. Let's have a listen to see what Jake Paul thinks of Sean Strickland having a little rumble with Sneeko and what he would do to Sean Strickland. And let's have a little listen to the actual deluded mind of this kid.
About the Sneeko versus Strickland fight.
I'm actually curious what you think about that. Sneeko versus Strickland. You saw that spar. What was your thoughts on that?
I think a lot of things, but I think it's weird that Sean tries to be macho man and you guys saw I sparred Sneeko on your stream. That's the difference of
yeah, you did.
Me working with him and being nice, but still throwing some punches to let him know this is what it would be like, but not trying to prove a fucking point and beat up someone.
Gotcha.
That's what I don't get about it. And then me calling Sean out to spar, and then him being like, no, I can't spar you because the UFC will sue me. But you just sparred Sneeko. So why couldn't you spar me?
Gotcha.
There's no money exchange. So it's all these guys ducking me. Patty Pimblett ducked me. None of these guys, in the fighting world, a lot of people don't want to fight. And
tips $1.
That's what's weird about it.
A little bit to unpack there. First of all, what I'll say about Jake Paul is when he's on a podcast like this, I saw him reacting to the Ryan Garcia stuff the other night. And to be honest with you, he's just way more likable than Logan Paul and KSI. I'll give him that much in terms of credit. He actually seemed, now listen, this is coming from a very small spectrum of content that I consume from these type of guys. From what I have seen in the last couple of weeks, he's about bearable when you actually watch Jake Paul. He's not the most obnoxious, disgusting, vile piece of shit that you could imagine. I think that award goes over to the likes of KSI or Logan Paul. But in terms of what he said here, my opinion, just my honest opinion, he's talking about the Sneeko Strickland sparring session. And he says that I sparred with Sneeko and I went easy on him and I give him a little touch the odd time to let him know that's what it would be like if I actually wanted to hurt you. I kind of agree with the sentiment of not going super hard in sparring. I thought that was fairly weird. It doesn't necessarily mean that I love Sneeko and that he didn't deserve an old ass whooping, but you could have done without that, in fairness. Jake Paul thinking that he's a professional fighter and that this is what might happen if I really hit you, that's kind of funny and deluded as well. And a second side note to that is he talks about why Strickland didn't spar him and that he said that, Strickland asked the UFC and they said, no, we'll sue you if you spar Jake Paul. But you just sparred Sneeko. That's the argument there. And it's I think that the Sneeko sparring session with Sean Strickland happened by accident. I think it was a real organic kind of boys met up the night before, talked a little bit of shit and said, yeah, we'll have an old spar tomorrow. They went in there and it happened. Then the thing blew up, went completely viral, and the UFC were like, that's happening on the grounds of UFC gyms? We can't be doing that. So the idea of bringing in a big celebrity problem child like Jake Paul for another spar, it was never going to happen. There was no way Sean was ever getting out of his contract to go and fight this dude. So I think that's how that whole thing played out. So Jake kind of saying that Sean Strickland is frightened of him and that I can't fight you, bro, because I'm going to get sued. I think that the UFC told Sean Strickland, who's already on eggshells over there, bro, what the hell are you doing? You're bringing so much negative attention towards us. 1 minute you're going after left-wing nut job LGBTQ mafia type people, and the next minute you're beating the shit out of Sneeko. We can't be having that. So I think that kind of debunks both points that Jake Paul made there. But as I said, just a quick assessment of what he's like on streams. I've only seen clips like that. Not the most obnoxious guy ever. I think it's just a fact that you kind of tie the two of them together, himself and Logan Paul, and that would boil your blood. As for the dude sitting next to him, that dude needs to be transported right now into the octagon with Sean Strickland. No gloves and take the same whooping that Sneeko took, because this guy is fucking annoying. Let me know your thoughts down below. Maybe hit like, subscribe and share if any of this made sense. I appreciate you. Cheers.